What could kill you in your daily life that people don't even understand it's that dangerous? Pool drains. I have the worst fear of pool drains, especially the large square drains, because in 2000, I got stuck to a massive square drain the size of a door at the bottom of a community pool when it accidentally turned on. Luckily, the lifeguard immediately jumped into action and had the drain turned off. They had to cut out my hair, and I had the worst posh spice bob for the rest of 5th grade. In most recent years, due to several pool drain related deaths, I read that pool drain covers have to be dome-like and there are 2 drain systems. So if someone gets stuck on one drain, the suction goes to the other drain. I have a slight obsession with looking up pool drain safety these days. Smoldering ashes. Ashes can smolder for hours, and you won't even notice. I have a 2-stage system for outside ashtrays, and a safe spot for the grill to cool down overnight. Never take chances with any form of fire. Speaking of, dryer lint, clean out your lint trap, clean out the exhaust point for your dryer, and check that everything is working properly. This is a big one. A couple months ago a major fire started down the road from where I live. Luckily the owner of the property reported it pretty quickly. Apparently he threw out some ashes from his wood stove, and there were a few hot coals still left. 12 hours later he looked outside to see half of a field on fire. Carbon monoxide, get a detector. Not sure how big of a deal it is anymore, but it was like the killer thing in the 90s. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas that has no smell or taste. Breathing it in /0 can make you /0 unwell, and it can kill if you're exposed to high levels. Incorrectly installed, poorly maintained or poorly ventilated /0 household appliances /0 such as cookers, heaters, and central heating boilers /0 are the most common causes of accidental exposure to carbon monoxide. NHS England. So I've got a story that involved CO. I was doing flight training a few months back, and my instructor and I were flying around. It was bumpy, and I was under the hood, wearing goggles that kept me from looking outside, focusing on flying by sole reference to instruments. Sometimes I would get airsick if it got too bumpy and I was under the hood, so I ignored it. Then my instructor yawned and said he had a headache. I said me too, and that I was sleepy. Now we had absolutely zero reason to suspect co-poisoning at this point, until he felt heat coming out of the AC vent. We quickly suspected co-poisoning, turned off the AC, absolutely no reason it should be pumping in heat let alone CO, opened the window, and headed back to the airport to get on the ground as soon as possible. We get back and discovered lead in the air conditioning intake. Lead is in aviation grade fuel, which means exhaust was getting into our AC. As it turns out, the exhaust pipe that was at the bottom of the engine cowl, just recently replaced, was too short, and airflow was taking exhaust and putting it right into our air conditioning. If I was alone that flight I might have died. Stress. Stress can kill. Had a few middle-aged friends who were working on this or that project, often not even work related, pulling late hours. Definitely complained of stress. No health issues, just stress. Boom. They drop dead or don't wake up. Likewise have known people in grief or other emotional stress. They die planning the funeral or on the way to the funeral or something. No previous health issues, just intense emotions. Stress can kill. This isn't something in most people's daily life, but I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have an insulin pump. If someone pulls it out or breaks the cord the insulin goes through, and I have no extra insulin in vials or something, then I'll die within a day or two. I once had a kid cut the cord of my insulin pump with scissors. I had to leave my school and go home to get a new one as quickly as possible. Ladders. There's a surprising amount of fatalities from people falling off ladders every year. Edit. There have to be at least 100 plus stories of fatalities. People getting maimed, injuries, or at best lucky close calls in response to this post. I've read them all and some of it is downright tragic. Be careful people, and don't let your boss browbeat you into using a ladder when you shouldn't. Rickety ladder, too short for the job, on a slippery surface, etc. Electricity. All these extension cords haphazardly strewn about. someone else in the vehicle not wearing their seatbelt. A 200-pound passenger not wearing their seatbelt turns into a 200-pound sack of meat and bones flying around the cabin during a collision. If they smack into you, then you're ducked. Even if you don't respect your own safety and well-being, respect the safety and well-being of the other people in the car. Wear your seatbelt, wear your seatbelt, wear your duck-eyeing seatbelt. In the military we had to do rollover training for in case a vehicle was flipped by an IED or whatnot. One of the things you learn very quickly is to strap everything down, because it all turns into projectiles when the vehicle flips. Even if it doesn't hit you, trying to move stuff out of your way while trying to drag yourself out of a flipped vehicle with bruises or broken bodies is going to be difficult. Diabetes. Had a friend die the year after high school from diabetes no one knew he had. Everyone said the only possibility was some sort of accident, as we'd all seen him only weeks prior, and he was healthy then. Plus you couldn't not like the guy. No way anyone would ever kill him. Was shocked to say the least when I found out he died of diabetes. Sounds like a very painful way to go. For me personally, my shoes have almost no traction on the bottom. Every wet surface is dangerous right now. Even the paint lines on the road are slick when wet. I could fall and smack my head, and that'd be all, she wrote. Not getting enough sleep. Short term, just not being alert increases your risk for an accidental injury or worse, and longer term sleep deprivation issues could lead to illness or death. Tires. Just check out some of the top posts on "Our tires are the enemy." A loose tire from a semi or car can come out of nowhere and just wreck you as you walk down the street minding your own business. So I know this wouldn't apply to everyone's daily life, but my full-time job is at a zoo, and I work at our sea lion exhibit, where people can feed the animals from the top of a ledge. One of the safety rules we have is don't dangle your arms over the ledge, because it's teasing the animal and that's the signal to them that you have fish. So if you keep your arms over long enough looking like you're holding a fish, it's possible that sea lion will jump to your hand and bite you. A lot of people disregard this rule because they want to get the animal's attention. What a lot of people don't realize is that 1. Sea lions have extremely sharp teeth and can and most likely will hurt you if they bite you. 2. Sea lion bites have an extremely high infection rates, and if you're bitten you will most likely contract an illness called seal finger. If not treated properly, seal finger can actually lead to the loss of hand function and fingers themselves. If not treated at all, it may possibly lead to death. And not a lot of medical professionals are used to treating sea lion bites, so 18-wheelers. Can't believe the amount of future Darwin Award recipients playing road games and brake checking semis. All truck isn't innocent either. I drive 100 miles per day and I see more semis than I'm comfortable with tailgating passenger cars or sometimes each other, plus those who do not bother to stay in their lanes, especially at night early morning. It's like they forget if they hit something their vehicle has all the force of a lethal cruise missile and could easily kill someone. The most reckless driving trucker I ever saw actually did end up hitting my car on my way to work too. He got in the far left lane just to do that. Thankfully the highway was clear in front of me and I was able to floor it before any major damage occurred. He still managed to knock me from the center lane into the far right and destroy my tire and my rim. Give trucks all the space you possibly can and don't dawdle when passing them. Water. We take it for granted, but that beach will kill you. Don't drink enough. Dead. Drink too much. Dead. Inhale some. Dead. Standing outside when it's coming down. Swept away and dead. Brain aneurysms. Archer jokes aside, a family friend was completing nursing school, went to bed with a headache, and never woke up. I don't think she was older than 23. Really sad. Edit from Arthur Spanks. Sap, if you or anyone around you ever have a Hassan trauma instant headache and can describe it as worst headache I've ever had, immediately have someone drive you to the ER and describe it to the admission nurse exactly with that phrase. They won't duck around and they will immediately get you in for scans. At my work there's a spiky thing you put receipts on to keep track of orders at the drive-thru, and I reached down to get something on the counter and nearly pierced my neck through it. I didn't realize how dangerous such a little thing can be. Edit, it's called a spindle. I see a lot of videos of people getting attacked by trained animals that are still dangerous. Lions and bears for example. People need to know not surprise a trained bear coming in too close behind it for a photo. Don't get mad at an animal for acting like an animal. Saw a girl get bit by a wild shark. She was hand feeding it. Like, what did you expect would happen? I want to personally curse you, Meltzer is my daddy, for making a thread that will inevitably make me too afraid to leave my home. Or stay in my home, I guess. Edit, for all the comments that are just telling me more worrying things. Curse you too. I feel like people are entirely too nonchalant about piloting 3,500 pounds of steel at 70 miles per hour. Stop ducking texting. Just walking around outside. I can't find the article, but a friend of a friend was crossing the street, tripped on the curb, hit his head, and died. Most freak accident ever, and it could happen to any of us any day. Surprisingly, Tylenol. There's a very good reason why it says not to exceed the daily limit in big bold letters on the side of the bottle. It can cause you to bleed out, and it doesn't take very long to add on. Tylenol is paracetamol, acetaminophen for the Americans, right? I work in acute medicine, and I'm continuously baffled by the number of people I end up treating for accidental odds who don't know you can overdose on it and just knock it back like sweeties. It's a popular suicide method for a reason, although it's a horrible way to die. It kills you by causing fulminant liver failure, doesn't make you bleed out, except in a roundabout way, since the liver makes your clotting factors, which is slow and agonizing. Driving. People forget how easily you can lose control and die, yet almost daily I see people on the phone behind the wheel. Anything. You just have to be in the right place, at the perfect time. Take the Humboldt bus crash. If either driver had arrived at that intersection 3 seconds before or after, nothing would have happened. It is the definition of a freak accident. Head injuries. We forget just how insanely fragile our brains are, and we are just now starting to understand concussions and traumatic brain injury. Getting knocked out doesn't work like it does in the movies. If you don't die, you can have cognitive impairment, personality changes, etc. You can ruin your whole life due to one unlucky thump to the skull. I participate in equestrian sports and it drives me crazy to see people not wearing helmets. There's a video of a lady going around where she went over a jump. Her horse took a bad step, somersaulted, and literally landed on top of her head. The only reason she's still alive is because she was wearing a helmet that was side crush rated. I still see people light up a smoke while pumping gas. You'd think this would be common knowledge as well as common sense, but evidently not. Pretty much everything. You can trip walking down the sidewalk and hit your head just right. Boom, life-altering injury. You'll never be the same again. We are just bags of blood loosely held together by a skeleton and some muscles. That being said, I still take part in some activities that I know are very dangerous. Would rather burn out than fail away. Just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I saw a video a while back where a woman was just walking along and got smacked in the back of the head by a light pole that was knocked over by someone cutting down a tree or something like that. Obviously we all want it to be quick and painless, but it's crazy to think that she was probably thinking about dinner plans or the weekend or any number of things, and then bam, lights out. Doing somersaults and flips into the pool. If it hits your spine or your marrow, the consequences are fatal. Women still die in childbirth with alarming regularity, at least in the US. It pisses me off when I hear anti-hospital types saying childbirth is natural and doesn't need a doctor's attention or even a nurse midwife. Your body knows what to do. Women have given birth successfully for millennia, sure. Plenty of women give birth without complications, but many of them do not. Childbirth can be debilitating or lethal for both mother and baby, and in the US, midwife is an unprotected term, so lots of people using it have no medical training. Not to mention that kicking women out of the hospital within hours of giving birth is barbaric. I lost an otherwise healthy neighbor last year to a complicated childbirth, survived by her widowed husband and 2 orphan children. It infuriates me